Right, I'm just trying to get everything all sorted and ready for the live stream today. Just get everything all sorted. Ra, 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 ra. Um, okay. We're going live at 10 o'clock, so this is just before the whole live thing kind of sort up and technical stuff. So, but if you come in on time and before time, please feel free to hit the thumbs up. Yeah, I'm just. No. It should be this one actually. Hmm. This one. Alright, let's say save. Right. La 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 la. Let's save. I should be able to do that there. Right, let's see. I had something here before. I know. I'm just trying to do the setup so that when we start, we start. When we start, we start. Yep, that's how we do it. Education. I'm just doing sound check and everything. So I'm quite new to the whole YouTube live thing, so I want to be able to get everything right. And perfecto, as always. Perfection is good. It's amazing. It is good. It is good to be a little bit perfect. Let me see that. Go here. Na, 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 na. And then if I went here, about 7 minutes more, and I am very, very much on time. That is just amazing. I'm here, I'm like this before live streams. I just like to get everything ready. I can entertain you with some song. As if I still know how to sing. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Are you worried about your job security and potential?
I just don't like that one. So how, oh, that's not the one. No, it's not the one. Oh, it's unlisted, so I'd have to list it first. Right, we got about 4 minutes, 6 minutes. That is nice. I will just do something now, just to make sure that I got it all right. If I went here. Oops, it is. Yeah, what's that then? Okay, let's go here. Go to videos. Let's see what this one is. Just want to test it to make sure it works perfectly well. Right, beautiful. Give us a thumbs up. And I just wanna do this, yeah. If I take this one, copy, goes live in about 5 minutes. I can do that. And there goes that one. If I go here, go to the details. Oops, there's it. So, yes, hello everybody. What's going on? You get this. If you can see me, if you come to the live stream, please give a thumbs up and just tell me how you're doing. Tell me how you are, just so I know that you're okay. 1 second, yeah. Nice one, beautiful, great. Hey, what's going on? How are you? Welcome to the live stream. I'm just going to share this out real quickly so that we can grab a few more people so that they know we're on. I was just doing some sound check and the rest of it. Just wanted to make sure that everything is clear and it sounds proper. Yeah, just 1 second. I'll just share this out on Facebook and grab a few lovely peoples. Okay, let's put it out there. Okay. 1 second. So how's everybody? How's life? Link below. This is hard work, you know. I should have a technical crew. Okie dokie. Right. Yes, Clarky, how are you? How's everything going? Nice one. I don't think I've caught you up before, but welcome to the live stream anyway. Welcome today. My name is Talk to Dot. My name is Dot Ikweregelachiru, and I'm coming to you from Talk to Dot. My channel is about creating awareness about domestic abuse and domestic violence. So I try to spread knowledge to people so that they understand what it is. A lot of people, women especially, don't know they're being abused, so I like to create awareness so that they understand what they're living in, if they know if it's something that can be fixed or not. I try to create awareness to people around those in domestic abuse, because a lot of times the people that are in in an abusive environment or in an abusive relationship, they've been broken so much that they can't do anything to help themselves. So if the people around them notice behaviors and certain actions about them, they would be able to potentially rescue them from that situation. So that's what my channel is about, basically. So today, however, we have live streams. I used to have live streams on Facebook. I just thought I'd move it to YouTube. So today the topic is makeup sex after arguments. You know, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Right, now I'll try and throw some light about what makeup sex is, and then I will talk about a few things. But as I speak, right, if you got any questions, right, feel free to type the questions in the chat. At some point I'll go back to it to look at the questions that have come up and to sort of like see, okay, let's discuss, because it's more or less like we're rubbing minds. Like I'm saying what my perception, I might be like, oh no makeup sex, that's absolutely horrible, or you might be, oh hang on, there's some good things about it, there's some benefits and stuff like that. So we're actually going to exchange views, knowledge and stuff like that. So let's just rub minds together. Right. So makeup sex basically, I mean, it's clear. It's basically after an argument, you have couples, people in relationship, they have a fight, they have an argument, you know, absolutely in tears and shattered, oh, I hate you, I don't have anything to do with you. And then they sort of like make up, and in the process of making up, they have sex. So it's something that happens quite frequently. Now, going further, the reason why this happens is because it's sort of what I would call like an arousal transfer. So the same energy that was used into that fight, that anger, that pain, the tears and everything, when there is a settlement or there's that hug or cuddle, that same energy gets transferred into an arousal. That's why it's called an arousal, transfer. The same emotions, the same high that comes up with that anger and that pain, it gets transferred into, a sexual relationship. And which is why a lot of people find it really, really, really passionate, excuse me, I find it really, really passionate, because there's so much emotions, all the adrenaline that rushes, all those enzymes and everything that gets produced by the body, they're still present, and they're the same exact, hormones and enzymes, they're the same exact things that you need that causes a sexual arousal. The same emotions and hormones that are used to create that whole anger and pain is the same thing. So when that's transferred into a sexual experience, of course it's going to be a blast. Of course it's going to be amazing. Of course it's going to be wow. Never seen anything like this before. You understand? So that's basically why makeup sex is like something like, oh, you just gotta have it. You just have to have it. However, on this particular chat, we're trying to understand like thing or is it a bad thing? Now, one of the things that I try to do all the time is not to set there is no time, there is no chart that determines what's good and what's bad in relationships. There is no white and black in relationships. There is white, there's black, there's gray, there's blue. So every relationship is unique, and people in relationships need to find what works for them. Now, in relationships, right, when people have arguments and then they have sex after, it's going to be passionate, it's going to be good, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that if it's done in the right context and in the right environment, in the right relationship. If people have an understanding of what sex after an argument or a fight or a breakup, if they understand what that is, then potentially you don't have a problem. Now, where makeup sex could become an issue is where people forget that there were emotions, there was an issue that led to emotions and then the sex after. Sex after an argument should not replace communication. You get me? It shouldn't replace that. What you find in a lot of relationships as the negatives of makeup sex is a situation where people have replaced that communication. Now, it could be the man who is not a good communicator or who has no intentions of communicating about what just went wrong, so make up for it in sex. And from the woman's point of view, obviously, I mean, come on, that's the time of your life. That's when someone gets to worship your body, someone gets to say all the sweet things, and a makeshift kind of apology just to get to do what they need to do. And of course both parties love it. But then what happens after makeup sex is where there was never any communication, where there was no acknowledgement of something that was done to offend the other party. You finish makeup sex and then you're back in the same place where all of those emotions, the pain of the argument is still there. So makeup sex should never be used as something to cover up for communications, to say, I acknowledge what I did and I'm sorry. It's not going to happen today. Or what happened here? Why are you upset? Can I understand the situation? It should never try to replace that sort of communication. We get it wrong all the time when we try to use that as a cover up. Now, that's one category. You understand? That's one category of people where they can't communicate and they use sex as the excuse. But then over time, the same issue that causes the argument becomes a recurring event. So it keeps happening all the time and you keep having sex all the time. Sex now becomes what you use in place of communication, and then it doesn't really work over a period of time. It begins to get boring. I'll liken that to an example of alcohol or any sort of substance that people use, you know, people have issues, they have problems, they have a breakup, they lose their jobs, or someone dies, there's bereavement. What happens? They turn to alcohol or drugs. They drink so much because they want to just forget. They drink so much and they just want to get that high and just feel good. But then what happens, after the high moment, and you get sobered off. When you get sober, what happens? The problems are still there. So there's a difference where you realize you have a problem, you deal with the problem, and you have a drink. That's fine. But when you have a problem and you drink to cover up the problem, after the drink wears off, it's gone. And then what happens is that you have to keep going back to the drink to cover up the situation that you haven't handled. And over a period of time, you become a substance misuser or an alcoholic. It's the same thing with make-up sex, right? People ignore the fact that there needs to be communication. People need to talk about stuff. And because they never talk about it, make-up sex is what is used to replace communication. Sorry, someone's just trying to get online. I'm live. So, back to some of the things about make-up sex. The other category is the other category of things is where people begin to create because of what they felt in that high of the moment, that passion they felt. Some people now cannot have an orgasm or complete climax except they had a fight and they have a make-up sex. So now make-up sex becomes the only sex, which obviously now becomes 100% wrong. Because what happens now, in order to create the environment to have make-up sex, they, welcome, I see you, they begin to create reasons to fight about just so that they can fight, they can get angry, and then they can have sex. So what happens is they begin to create, and then sometimes what happens is they push the argument a bit further. So it could start from something, the first time make-up sex happens is over a natural thing where obviously couples have the disagreements and they have make-up sex, but then make-up sex becomes the only way people can have sex. So they begin to create issues. Sometimes it may result in physical violence as well, just so that they can create that atmosphere to have the passion they felt once for make-up sex. If they have to hit each other sometimes, if they have to push each other around sometimes, they'll do that. So now they're beginning to have fights all the time just so they can have make-up sex. Now in that context, it is completely wrong. Now that is a relationship that needs a whole lot of help. That relationship is so dysfunctional that they need to seriously go and get some help. Now, in terms of what I was trying to say before about relationship, there is no right manual for everybody. What I say to people so that you can avoid having problems in future is to, one, understand yourself. And then when you understand yourself as a man or as a woman and know what you want and what makes you happy, that way when you find a partner or someone you're dating or someone you want to get married to, you find someone that is similar to you. Now, there's some people I know, they need to have an argument to be able to have sex. This is just who they are. Now, if someone like that meets someone who believes in communication as opposed to make-up sex, that relationship is doomed to fail. They will have issues upon issues because while, let's say for instance, the man wants to have an argument so he can have sex, and the woman is of the opinion where we have to communicate, we have to talk about the issues before anything, or she's like, I don't even want you to touch me after we had an argument because I don't, so it becomes an issue. So people should understand who they are so that you can go for the same kind of person and avoid problems. For instance, there's some people that need to be beat up, some ladies as well. I mean, they obviously have some mental health problems or some issues that have made them believe that without getting hit, they can't get that high or that arousal. This is who they are. Now, they would need to hook up with someone who is like them, because a lady who has programmed herself due to stuff that's going on in her life from when she was a young person that she needs to be hit to get an arousal. Now, if she finds herself with a man in a relationship who cannot hit a woman, who will not have an argument, who would rather have a dialogue, that relationship is doomed to fail, because if she has to fight him just to get it out of him, she'll do that, because for her, that's the only way she gets aroused. So in terms of relationship, for me, this is my opinion, and you tell me what you think about it later. It has to do with couples. If two people like to be in that situation, yeah, then fair enough, go ahead and do it. But the downside of it is at some point it's gonna wear out, where at the end of the argument you feel empty. So it's almost like, yeah, the passion lasted, but where is it now? And then you feel so empty afterwards that you need to have it again. You need to do it. How about a situation where you find a way to passionately have sex and do that without anything, nothing attached to it? Like, you don't have to have an argument before that. You don't have to have one solemn or sad situation. How about a situation where you find a way to find your passion without that? Because the truth is, the end product of what's it called, um make up sex and break up sex, where people will just break up because they're gonna make up, and it doesn't really end well in most situations. I was talking to a good friend today, and she cited an example where this couple kept having make up, break up sex because it increased the passion and they really loved it. But they continued to do it, and they had to find reasons why they had to fight with each other. So it became like arguments to now physical violence of hitting. And at the end of the day, that relationship failed, but it failed at the point where they had been so violent, and she had gone blind in one eye. So that's where arguments would lead to, if that's the only reason why we have arguments, because we want to have sex. Potentially that's where it's going to get. We have to understand that the way the body works, the way the hormones work, is all biology. Like I said at the beginning, if you want to hear at the beginning, it's arousal, it's transferred arousal. The same emotions and energy and enzymes and hormones and discharges that come out of you when you're having an argument, when you're angry, when you're really mad, it's the same exact hormones and enzymes that are responsible for a sexual arousal. So when the argument ends, if the first thing you're going to do is have sex, obviously those energies are still there. So it's going to be the best sex ever. But then let it not become a situation where without an argument, you can't have sex. So, in a nutshell, that's my perception. I could be 100% wrong, and then obviously everybody has their love language and how they feel. Some people are very physical, they want to be touched. Some people just want to have words of affirmation. So, if a physical person is in a relationship with someone who wants words of affirmation, obviously, after an argument, the person who wants words of affirmation is not looking for someone who wants to have sex with them. They want someone to speak to them and say, hey, I'm so sorry about what happened. It should never have happened. I'm sorry about the way I spoke to you. You are an amazing man. I absolutely love you. They want to hear those things. They don't want anyone touching them at at that time. I've seen so many situations. I've heard so many, inquiries where people say, my partner, she has arguments with me, and just after we've had arguments, she's coming on to me, and I absolutely cannot stand it because we just had an argument, we've not talked about it, and she wants to have sex. It's the same thing that happens with women as well. Like, they have an argument with the man wants to have sex to cover up the conversation, and then it all goes pear-shaped. So I think that there needs to be a balance. So let me just look at the chat and see if anyone is saying something. Does anyone have any questions or any contrary view of of the situation? Does anyone have any opinions or something that I could read out? Otherwise, I'll just read out a few things to you guys. About makeup sex should not be something that is used to replace intimacy, emotional intimacy. There's lots of emotions after an argument or a breakup or a bereavement, but let's not always wait for something bad to happen to get our emotions out. I said in the last chat, I said people should be in charge of their emotions. You should be able to control your emotions. There's some people who have no control over their emotions. There's some people who can't feel emotions. They don't know how to get in touch with their emotions. If as a person you don't know how to get in touch with your emotions, you need to do stuff like you need to hurt yourself before you can feel something. These are the kind of people that you find that they need something to happen so that they can get aroused, sexually aroused. I gave an example to someone today. I said, It's almost like a case of serial killers. I watch lots of CSI, Criminal Minds, and all that stuff. Psychopaths and the rest of them. It's all kind of they're all kind of connected. All of these things. So a serial killer, right? The first time now, a serial killer is someone who already has a psychological problem. They already have an issue in their head, because no normal person goes and kills. So a serial killer, before they become a serial killer, killed one person, right? And when they killed that one person, right, they felt something. There's a high they felt, a high that they couldn't explain. It's like a sexual arousal. It's just something they felt beyond any drug or alcohol they've ever taken. Now, because of that thing they felt, they're going to want to kill again so that they can feel the same thing, they can feel the same energy. Which is why when you watch movies about serial killers and you see documentaries, if it's a male serial killer trying to kill women or men, they look for the same kind of person that fits the same characteristics, same color of hair, same color of eyes. They try to recreate the first instance, and the only reason they do that is because they want to feel that energy again. Now, sadly, it never happens, which is why they go on a spree, and then by the time they get found out, they've owned the name serial killers because they've done it several times. It's the same thing with every other thing. The first time someone has a drink, you feel something and you're like, oh wow. The next day you want to feel that thing again, you have 2 drinks. There's no self-control. The next time, I didn't feel it, I want to have 4 drinks, and before you know, you become an alcoholic and have a problem. The first time you take a hard substance, a drug, you feel something. The next time you take it, the same quantity, you don't feel the same thing, because you know what, your body has adapted to that, so it's not the same thing. You need to take a double portion, double dose. Next time 4 times, next time 8 times, 12 times, and before you know it, that's it. It's the same thing with makeup sex. The first time as a couple you have an argument and you have sex afterwards, wow, amazing. The next time it happens after an argument, still wow, amazing. However, when it becomes a situation where we start having arguments, a lot of times we're not resolving the issues, we're having the same problem all the time and trying to settle it with sex as a means of communication, then it becomes a very, very unhealthy situation. Very, very unhealthy situation. Not a good place to be at all. Right. If you're in the stream and you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. Let's know your thoughts about makeup sex after an argument. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it just nothing? Should it never happen? Should it happen all the time? What are your thoughts? Also, if you feel blessed by what we do in Talk to Dot and you want to give a donation, there's a $sign there. Feel free to hit that $sign at any time and make a donation. Yeah, I'll tell you a few more things. Now, if we want to take makeup sex further, like I said at the beginning of the channel, and if you read up about my channel, it's about domestic abuse and domestic violence. Now, in abusive homes, right? Now, if you look into abusers, narcissists, psychopaths, and the rest of them, one of the things they lack is they're not in touch with their emotions. You can't have a conversation with them. They gaslight you. They go around in circles. They go around in a circular conversation, so they can never admit to anything they've done wrong. They're always right. That's what you find in abusive relationships. Sorry, someone just sent me a message. Hold up. Where is it now? They would never admit to being wrong. So one of the things you find in abusive relationships is that there are lots of arguments, and then after the argument, the abuser wants to get the victim to have sex with them. Like, a lot of times these arguments and these issues are created because a lot of abusive people, they're not in touch with their emotions. They need things to trigger that arousal. So they fight all the time. They have arguments all the time. They hit their spouses because that's the only way they can feel something. Now, which leaves, sometimes they have to actually rape their spouses, because a victim in an abusive relationship, after a period of time, they get tired of, we have arguments and then we have sex, we have arguments and then we have sex, we have arguments and then we have sex. It becomes a cycle. So they get tired because it's not resolving the problem. It becomes a pain. And then when they can no longer go on with it, The abuser takes it to the next level, which is they begin to force them into doing things that they don't want to do. If they have to hit them and say they're sorry, it happens. I once knew this couple, right? They'd have arguments all the time. The man will never own up to being wrong about anything. She would always apologize for everything. But the truth is, after every argument, without him saying sorry, without them talking about it, which she absolutely wanted to happen, he would insist on having sex. Over a period of time, it would have to happen. So it was now something that was done by force. Now she wasn't giving her consent to it, but he would impose this on her because he said, well, we're married. I'm your husband. He said, it's just normal. Like, people have an argument and they have sex afterwards. It works. It makes us feel better. But she's like, we've been doing this for years now. Note, for years now. And it's not getting better. We're still arguing over the things we argued from the first day we met. And years have passed. How about we have a conversation about it? You understand? Every couple are allowed to have arguments, to have disagreements. It is normal. It's absolutely healthy to be in a relationship and have arguments and have misunderstanding, because no one is perfect. It's two people that don't know each other that come together. So you're supposed to have arguments, and based on the arguments you learn. But where it's an unhealthy situation is where you're having the same arguments over and over and over again. In abusive relationships, they keep starting all over. Yeah, in abusive relationships, they keep starting all over. They never make progress. So every time they have an argument, the abuser will say, I'm so sorry, let's start all over. And the victim believes and says, fine, I love him or I love her, let's start all over. The next day, they have an argument again. Oh, I'm so sorry, let's start all over. 10 years later, they're still starting all over, and they're still starting all over based on the same thing that they never communicated about, which is what abusers do. They could never have a conversation about anything. They're never wrong. And even when they say they're sorry just because they want to rope you in to stay longer, or they want something else. So in an abusive situation, makeup sex is a no-no. If you're in a relationship with an abusive person, makeup sex is not going to change anything. It's not going to make you feel better. It's not going to make you feel, you're going to feel devalued every time. You're going to feel taken advantage of. What you want and what you feel is you want to have a conversation about something, and you want them to stop doing what they're doing. If you are in an abusive situation, I say this all the time, please note that you're not alone. Every 9 seconds, a woman is assaulted. Violently assaulted every 9 seconds. So it's not uncommon. So please note that you're not alone, and you need to talk to someone. And also remember that it's not your fault. As much as society and your abuser will make you feel like you're doing something wrong and you deserve to be in that situation, I need you to understand that it's not your fault and you're not alone. But you need to talk to someone. If you got no one else to talk to online, there's so many helplines and everything. If there's no one else to talk to, please get in touch and talk to Dot. Right? So back to the topic of the day, makeup sex. Anyone got something to tell me that I don't know about makeup sex? Because honestly, I don't know a lot about makeup sex. I need anyone in the live stream to tell me something they know and something they want to add. They want to add to what we've said now. Something that could be beneficial, a story an experience, an encounter. Just type it in the chat and I'll read it out on your behalf and talk about it. Yeah. You understand? It's in a healthy relationship, right? Two people can come together after a disagreement, quite all right, and they can share really, really good physical intimacy. There's nothing wrong with that, because they feel close to each other. Yeah. But for greater intimacy, however, you need to have trust. It's trust that motivates it. You understand? Like I said, if you have one person that needs to have a fight to be satisfied, and the other person needs to have communication, then you can have a problem. If you have two people from beginning that the only way they can get aroused is by having an argument, then potentially they might do well for the rest of their lives. But the issue is when you have two different people. At some point, the other party that wants to be communicated to is going to say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I can't do this anymore. We don't talk. It's not going to go far. after the first couple of times. Now, for people who are not married and are not in a long-term relationship, then yeah, you could try that, because after 6 months and you get tired of fighting and making up, you jump to the next person and start a new relationship. And the new relationship, you fight, you make up, you fight, you make up, you fight, you make up. And then after 6 months or a year, you get fed up of the situation. It's the whole cycle. You move to someone else. You understand? But for someone who is in a long-term relationship, after the first 6 months of doing the same thing over and over, it gets boring. And if you want to keep it up, you're going to have to up the game. If it means moving from an argument to physical violence, a lot of times they do. If it means moving to hitting each other, they will start doing that. And then once you add that into the mix, trust me, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better at all, you know. Doesn't at all. You know, so in my opinion about that, you know, it's not it could be it's one of those things that could be a blessing and a curse at the same time. It could be a blessing and a curse at the same time. Let's try and draw some more people in to see. Yeah, I'll the other thing I'd like to advise people is that when you find someone you truly belong with, you feel balanced because you think things are in the emotional order that they're supposed to be in. Now, the next time you have a fight with your partner and you later try to initiate make-up sex, sit with those feelings a little longer. You understand? Don't just jump into sex. Sit with those feelings a little longer. And then make sure that having sex is for the right reason, not to cover up the fact that there's a conversation and you want to just move on without having that conversation. Because trust me, after the high of the passion, you're coming down there to where the problem was, where you left it, and it's going to be there in your face, and then the emptiness starts. And then to fill that void, you're going to want to have another argument and try to do it all over. Should you find yourself in the middle of a sexual encounter and suddenly realize that you feel confused, you feel angry, you feel sad, please gently pull back and explain to your partner. Now, if you got a sensible one, you got someone that really loves you, they should understand that. You understand? They shouldn't just think that, okay, let's just do this, you'll feel better. No, it doesn't make anyone feel better. If you don't feel right, if you don't feel happy, if you feel angry, confused, and all that, you should pull back and say, stop. Let's try again later. Let's have a conversation. Now, if you get into a situation where you say, let's stop and let's do this later, and your partner insists and forces you into, now that's another conversation, because it's a two-way thing. Two people have to consent to it. If one person hasn't consented, then we're looking at something else there. You understand? No means no. We say that all the time. No means absolute no. If someone says, oh, you know what? Not now. We'll try this later. Let's give them their respect and do it later. You understand? If your partner pushes you to explain in that moment exactly what's going on with you, simply say, I'm not sure. You don't have to know. It's a feeling. Sometimes you have a feeling and you don't know how to express it. Sometimes you just need to take a step back, So you can't force someone to, on the spot, explain something just because you want to get on with it, and just keep going. So just say you're not sure, but I know that it will make sense and it will come to me later. Just say you need some time. Like, everyone who loves the other person should be able to give them space, should be able to give them time to collect themselves and to be able to come back to you to say, okay, this is what is going on in my mind. This is what it is. You understand? These moments, could be quite uncomfortable and could be quite uncertain. However, really uncomfortable as well. If you are with that person that understands, that person that really loves you and is in touch with their emotions and yours, they will understand. They will understand, because if the mood and the atmosphere, if one party is not right, there's no point really pushing it to say, oh, let's just do it, you'll feel better afterwards. Because the truth is, afterwards, if you don't feel it, if it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, you feel empty, you feel used, you feel depressed, you feel deflated, and honestly, that's not where you want to be. That's exactly, these are the negatives of makeup sex. Yeah. Let's see. Right. Um, I was just gonna say. So, in a nutshell, that was that was my opinion about makeup sex after an argument. Yeah. So I'll just wrap up. I'll wrap up a few things, before I head out. Except anyone out there's got questions to ask. Makeup sex could be heavenly. It could be a blessing. It could be a whole lot of things. I could, really go through a lot of things that makeup sex could be. However, if it's not used in the right way, it becomes something, that becomes a problem to that relationship. It is a massive trigger to understanding an unhealthy relationship. You know, repeating myself as always, like a broken record, just so that people get what I'm saying. If you need to have an argument, yeah, if you need to have an argument just so that you can get aroused, then that in itself is a problem. Hear me when I say this. If you need to have an argument just so you can be aroused, that in itself is a problem. You get me? You should be able to be aroused. You should be able to you know, have that passion without it. Now, in event that you do have an argument, and afterwards you decide to have sex, there's nothing wrong with it as long as that doesn't become the standard. As long as that doesn't become the standard way that you can have a passionately intimate relationship with your spouse, your partner, and all that stuff. So we need to be careful so that we don't cross the line of, someone it's just impossible for you to be aroused. That is in itself a problem. That is in itself a problem on this one. And if you're in a relationship where you constantly have to have an argument, so two things. If you're in a relationship where you have to have an argument all the time, either you start the argument or your partner starts the argument, before you guys can get into bed together and have passionate sex and you guys can have an orgasm or climax, then there is a problem. If it happens now and then that's no problem. But if you have to do that all the time, have an argument, please trust me. It starts with an argument. When the argument doesn't work anymore, it progresses to violence, potentially hitting each other. It's throwing things at each other. And once you add violence to a relationship, it all hell breaks loose. If you are in an abusive relationship, right, a narcissist or an abusive person cannot communicate. They don't like to have communications. Even when you do try, they go around in a circle. They're just going around in a circle, round and round and round in a circular conversation, gaslighting you, making you sound like you don't know what you're saying. These kind of people don't want to have they don't want to have a conversation, so they will ignore a conversation to cover it up with a hot session. You understand? So if you're in an abusive situation, right, makeup sex will become one of the things that will be used as an abuse on you, and it will make you feel deflected all the time. It will make you feel empty. It will make you feel alone. It will make you feel used. So don't ever think that makeup sex in an abusive environment will make things get better. What you need to do is to have a conversation. If you are in a normal, regular relationship where normal people have fights and arguments, if you are constantly having makeup sex after arguments, you need to take a step back and ask yourself, are we really talking about the problem, or are we brushing it under the carpet and just moving on? Because what you're going to have is a recurring incident of the same thing going on and on and on and on with no change at all. So these are things you need to check. It could be a plus and a bonus in a relationship, or it could be an absolutely killer in a relationship. So that's what I gotta say about it. Otherwise, anyone got any questions or something? Anyone got any questions or something that you might want to share? We still got some time actually. Still got a couple of minutes before um before we call it a day. Really. So I hope these points were kind of insightful. I hope that they helped clarify some things because someone sent me the question earlier on in the week, and I thought, it's a good topic. It's a good thing to talk about, and I thought it would be um, quite helpful as well. If someone sent me a message, you need to go on the live stream and type a message there so that people can read it and and ask questions. Let's just see. So, my very lovely people, otherwise, how is the lockdown treating you all? How is everything? Um, Other one treating everyone stay motivated. Usually I post videos on Tuesdays in a playlist called Exposing Domestic Abuse, because obviously my channel is about exposing domestic abuse. Some people don't know what red flags are. I throw a lot of insights to people about what red flags are, so that one, you don't find yourself in an abusive relationship, because when you get into an abusive relationship, it's quite difficult to come out of it. Now, two, if you're in an abusive relationship and you don't know that you're being abused, I throw a lot of awareness about what is involved in an abusive relationship, so that you can look around you and see what's going on. Three, you've seen what's going on and you're thinking, right, I need to get out of here. There is a process, a lot of people miss it, by trying to call out the nap or trying to call out the abuser, and usually that doesn't end well. So I try to create awareness, on how to handle an abusive relationship, what you need to do, and how you need to get out, literally. The fourth category I deal with, that I have trainings with and sessions with, and I have coaching sessions with, are those that have come out of an abusive relationship. A lot of times people think, all right, I've broken out of the house, I'm free, I'm fine. Well, breaking news, statistics has shown that you are 3 times more in danger or more likely to get killed when you come out of an abusive relationship than when you was in it. So you're not safe for the first 0 to 3 years. So there is a process when you come out, and you might think, fine, I've come out of the abusive home, I'm going back to normal, I'm gonna hang out with the girls, I'm gonna have chippy at the local shops, drinks with the girls. A lot of times, when the high gets down, you get deflated because your body has dealt with a lot of toxins and toxic things around you, that your body begins to emit these things. Then you find out you become sick a lot, you lose sleep, you become weepy, you become an emotional wreck, and you're saying to yourself, oh my goodness, these things are happening to me and I've left, maybe I was better off in there. So you begin to question yourself and your decisions. So the fourth category that I deal with is trying to make people understand what happens after you leave, and then to give you a proper guide to getting your life back on track. Because when you come out, what you want is your life to get back on track. But what happens a lot of times that people actually just go down, and they can't understand why. And everyone is different, depends on what you saw and what you experienced and what happened. So there isn't an actual timeline to say, all right, in 6 months you're coming out. But then there is a guide to make sure that you definitely are improving every day, and you get better and you get better and you get better. So that's what I do. I'll put my website in the link, even though it's there in the description. Please feel free to get in touch with me. Yeah, if you have any inquiries or you have any needs, get in touch with me through my contact. That's the easiest way. I mean, my website is not like I've got tons of articles there. It's just an avenue for people to be able to send me an email and contact me. Also, I've got a massive community on Facebook. My Facebook page is called Talk to Dot on Facebook. It's massive. We have conversations there all the time. And there's Twitter and there's Instagram. So chase me up anywhere. And I have these live streams every Monday. I'm still trying to find the best day of the week, but so far it's Mondays, and it's going to be Mondays at 10 o'clock, between 10 and 11 o'clock GMT, which I think in America should be about maybe about 6 p.m. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, between 4 and 6 p.m., which might be quite early for you guys. We might try to move it, to a later time so that it's more convenient for my friends in America. But yeah, going forward, we would have some special guests and stuff like that, So don't miss it. Don't miss the schedule. The schedule will be out on Facebook, out on the website, so you can catch up on it and stuff like that. Saying that, I have a new single out. It's called Chineke. So please don't forget to check out the single as well. It's absolutely free. You just need to go to the website. Just really there, get my single art. It's absolutely free. If you want to buy it, you can buy it. If you want to just get it for free, you could just download it and get a copy. The proceeds, as usual, goes towards supporting families in need. So disadvantaged families that are struggling with their kids to survive. I kind of collect funds, and it's my way of giving back to society. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna wrap up this live in about, let's see how much time we got. We've got a few more minutes, haven't we? We've got about 9 minutes, to be honest. In those 9 minutes, anyone got any questions or anything? Anyone got anything they want to ask? Anyone got any questions they want to ask? Where is it now? Right. So, if you come into the stream, give us a thumbs up and let's know you're here so we can give you a shout out. If you got any questions, you let me know. Obviously, I'll upload this amongst my videos, so if you missed the stream, you can always go back and watch it. And then I'll be live again at 10 p.m. next Monday. Between now and next Monday, people send me questions, and based on those questions, I pick the hot topics, and then we have a conversation on that. So my live streams are more of me saying my opinion, and there's a Q&A. You can ask questions. I can ask you questions as well, and then you can come back to me. Before we wrap up, just a summary of everything we went through today. We're talking about make-up sex after arguments. Is it good or bad? There is no yes or no answer for that. It could be good and it could be bad. It all depends on how you use it. If make-up sex becomes that thing that drives your relationship, that thing that arouses you, that thing that replaces communication, that is the only thing that makes you aroused, then it becomes a bad thing. Because at the end of the day, yes, at the end of the day, when there are no more arguments, you begin to push it further to violence and all that stuff. So yes, definitely. Thank you for that. We kind of discussed that earlier. Make-up sex can encourage domestic abuse, and it can also be an avenue to divert underlying issues in a relationship. Yes, once make-up sex is used as a replacement for communication, obviously there was an argument about something, and that thing was never addressed. It was never discussed, and we just moved into an argument. So it's always there. You have arguments recurring without any change. You keep starting all over. After years and years and years, you find out that you're still going through the same thing. Meanwhile, you could have just had a conversation. Like I say, every single relationship should have arguments. They should have misunderstanding and all that stuff. Yeah. But when the misunderstandings are the same thing, when you're having an argument about the same thing over and over and over and over again, then that's wrong. You should address the issue so that you can have a different kind of argument. You can have a different kind of misunderstanding, not the same thing over and over again. The same thing over and over again just shows that there is no communication, and it's being covered. So like I said, you come into the stream, if you like what we do, there's a dollar button there. If you want to make a donation, and We'll of course appreciate this. We gather our funds and we give back to community. It is not a healthy option if there is abuse in the relationship. Definitely, if it is an abusive relationship, then makeup sex is not an option because the abuse will increase. It will move from arguments. It will move to violence. It will move to things like rape and the rest of them. And whoever is the victim in the relationship will always feel deflated and used and empty all the time, and it's just not a place to be. I said it earlier, I said if you're in an abusive relationship watching this and your partner uses sex to cover up for arguments, like, don't ever think it's going to get better, because after several months and years you'll find out that the same thing is going on and on and on and on, and there is no change. If you're in a relationship where you have arguments and you can't talk about it, then that in itself is a problem. If you're in a relationship with a person that is not in touch with their emotions, where they need to either hurt themselves or hurt someone or feel sober or feel sad before they can get aroused, then that is a serious psychological problem that needs to be addressed. And these are things that people need to look out for. Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be here for another about 4 minutes. If anyone wants to contribute to what's going on, your comments will be there. Otherwise, you can watch, the replay will be there. I'll upload it on my to my videos, and you see it there. It will be there. You can watch it later to see what was discussed and the questions that were there. You see the comments that people have made. You can still add to that, and I'll always, obviously come back and look at the comments and see how I can respond or to add to it. We'll be here again next week at 10 o'clock on Monday, or we might make it a bit later. I'm not sure yet. We'll see about that. And potentially we might have a guest as well. So keep your eyes peeled on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube as well, so that you can be updated. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, so that when there's a new video or any sort of new information, you get updated and you know about it, and you don't miss out. You don't miss out of it on it. There's someone typing. Right. Right, I got about 4 minutes. If anyone else got something to add to it, yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Stay close to home. Join the tribe. Big things ahead. Lots of things going on. Yeah, we're looking at messages and stuff. Yeah. All right, my people. We're gonna wrap up in a few minutes, anyways. So I just got about 2 minutes. 2 minutes for that hot question. For some people, arguing with a partner is like verbal foreplay. The tension builds and builds until it gives way to sensual passion. 100% correct. It's actually, I think there's a term for it called arousal transfer. So what's happened is that the same emotions, enzymes, and hormones that are produced by the body during an argument are the same emotions and enzyme and hormones that are produced that trigger an arousal. So for people that don't argue and have an arousal, it's the same emotions, it's the same enzymes and hormones. So after an argument, obviously the hormones are still there, the enzymes are still there, so you just need to transfer that the sex. But then, yeah, obviously some people, like I said, they're not in touch with their emotions. They need to create an argument, they need to hit someone, they need to hurt themselves, they need to do something to trigger those emotions, because they don't know how to, they can't get in touch with those emotions naturally, like regular people do. You know, when a person is in love, they feel good about their spouse or their partner. They feel certain energies that makes them, that gets them sexually aroused. For some other people, they need to create a scenario. You know, it's not just about makeup, sex, and arguments. There are people that have to watch certain kind of movies, that need to do certain things, to help them get in touch with arousal. You see, all of these things are psychological problems that need to be addressed. However, if you are someone that is like that, you need to find someone who's like you so that you guys just carry on doing your thing and wherever that leads you. But then where we always have a problem is that you have that one person who wants to do all the verbal abuse and all that stuff to get aroused, who is paired up with someone who wants to have a conversation. People have love languages. Some people are really physical, and some people need words of affirmation. Now, a person who is physical will need that physical touch all the time for them to feel loved. For someone who needs to hear words of encouragement and affirmation, they need to hear it. So, in an argument, the person who needs physical touch will need to get physical to feel better. The person who needs words of affirmation will need you to speak to them. Now, when you're not speaking to them and you only want to get physical, that in itself becomes a problem. You get me? So, my dear people of YouTube and Talk to Dot community, as much as I'd like to stay here forever and ever and ever and keep talking, I would have to love you and leave you. We've been here for about an hour now. I have to love you and leave you now. My name is Dot Ikweregulachiru, all the ways from Talk to Dot. My channel is about creating awareness about domestic abuse and domestic violence. I've got my website there. It's www.talktodot.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can follow me anywhere and everywhere. You can send me your questions and responses and whatever. And if you have questions for us to take at the next live stream, please do send it. I'm live every Monday at 10 o'clock on YouTube. If I change the time, obviously hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified of any changes and stuff like that. From me to you, as I always say, is one love, peace, guidance, and respect. Gotta go now. Thank you. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I will see you next week. One love.